Yes.
The last part of what you said is what I didn't catch.
Yeah, which part? Tell me about it.
You went through Tadbir, Munatabir, and then I lost you.
Okay. All right. So to have Munatabir, I'm going to give you some points now, which I'm going to go back and discuss. Munatabir is based on Fana. And Fana is based on Ma'rifa, Gnosis. So to have Munatabir, we have to understand Fana, and we have to understand Gnosis. Okay? All right. So we're going to be looking at what is the state of Fana. Okay, what is Tadbir? Tadbir is self-management. Okay, self-management means that essentially you're controlling reality by yourself. Okay, that doesn't mean some of you have very good connections, but you still may be doing Tadbir. Right? Some of you I know can connect to Allah. There's no question. If you've been on the path for a while, you can connect to Allah. It doesn't mean after you connect to Allah that you're following it. Right? So there's people who can't connect, there's people who can connect, there's people who follow the connection, and there's people who are the connection. Is that making sense? So there's 4 states of, can you all see this here? Is that readable? Okay. All right, so state 1, you cannot connect. Why can't you connect? Because your connection is weak and you're allowing veiling of that connection. So rather than following the connection, what you follow is yourself, right? Okay, state number 1. Okay, state number 2. You can connect to Allah, but in connecting, either you don't understand it, or you don't surrender to it, or possibly you partially surrender to it. Okay, so let's think about the second state. You're connecting to Allah, you have the connection, right? The connection happens, Allah is coming to you, He's giving you the light, but then something in you doesn't understand it in your heart. You don't quite know what He's saying. So rather than following and doing what He wants, you kind of step sideways and do what you want. Not because you mean to, it's just because you don't get it. Okay? Or Allah gives you what He wants, and something in you doesn't understand it in some deep way, so your understanding is veiled, and that is called a lack of ma'rifa, a lack of gnosis, because you're not understanding it. That must be the case here, right? Allah's emphasizing that point. All right, so we'll focus. I always listen for signs, because Allah's always giving signs. That was a very clear sign, right? So, I'm having trouble with the understanding. We'll go to the don't understanding it as the probable cause of the issues. All right. Okay, what's the next one? You do understand it, but you don't want to follow it. Anybody relate to that? Got a lot of head shaking with that one in the room. How many people, I mean, be honest, how many people feel that one? Okay, that's the largest percentage of jumping in I've seen. Okay, so we have a little bit of a surrender issue going on here. All right, is that because you're Texans and Texans are like of the Alamo, you're independent and you don't want to surrender, or what's the case over here? Okay, I don't know. All right. All right, and of course the final one is that you do surrender partially, but then something goes off in some way. There's some way you surrender, but it goes off. Okay, and I think this is probably, at least among the teachers that I work with and the Mokaddams and things, this is probably what I see the most, is that people really want to surrender, they're really trying to, but something in the mind gets skewed, you know, which is our lack of understanding, our lack of, you know, the illusions of our own minds can subtly throw us off understanding. And we hear it, but then we flip it into our own illusion, and we take it the wrong way. So it's an illusionary understanding of what God wants. That's, I think, the most common thing I see with people who have walked further, is it's really the illusions of the mind that is affecting things. And, you know, all of us, I struggle with that at times. You have to watch carefully your own being and really monitor what happens. And one of the ways you know you're an illusion is what you're doing doesn't work. Very simple. If what you're doing isn't working, you're caught in an illusion. Because the law works. So if what you're doing doesn't work, you got that, you probably got it, but somehow your mind tricked you. Your mind flipped you out. So we have to correct that state of illusion of perception. Illusion is a perceptual issue. Perceptual usually means perception of sight, inner sight, or perception of knowing, inner knowing. Okay? So this is a very, very difficult thing in that state. Yes?
Can you define doesn't work?
Does
that mean like a practical thing doesn't work, or it doesn't bring you closer to Allah?
Either way. Either way. Like being closer to Allah doesn't mean you get what you want. I mean, in fact, half the time it means not getting what you want, right? And it means learning to be patient, because Allah's making something. So, being close to Allah means you sit with Allah, and you have to accept His trials, His jalal, meaning that He's going to give you sometimes hard times. But the reason He's giving it for you is to teach you something. Like maybe you have a difficult child. He's teaching you to deal patiently with your difficult child, because He wants you to learn wisdom, and He wants you to learn love, and containment, and kindness, and compassion, and mercy, and peace, and holiness, and hakim, and akal, and all those things. So He's giving you that difficult child. And sometimes Allah will actually put in that child to be difficult just to teach you.
You've been watching my house.
It's your images. Okay, so these are the teachings for many of us at this time. Okay, so again, as far as if Allah gives you something to do and you don't do it, then you have responsibility in that you didn't follow what Allah gave you. There are consequences for that. Now, I'm not putting myself above that. I want you to know that I can speak clearly of when I haven't done it as well. I'm being very honest with you. That when Allah gives you something, if you don't follow what He gives you, Allah is the merciful, but that doesn't mean there's not consequences. If Allah told you to do something and you didn't do it, Allah will be merciful with you, and there is a consequence for you not doing what Allah gave you. It's going to have a boomerang effect. You're going to have, I don't know what you want to call it karma, call it whatever you want. But whatever that is, you have I actually don't call it karma, I don't like that way. But whatever that is, it does come back to you. It's going to come back to haunt you, and then Allah will be merciful with the haunting. It's not that He doesn't have it come back at you. Is that making sense? So Allah tells you, move, you don't move. Why did Allah tell you to move? There was a reason for it. If you don't move, the reason that you didn't move is going to back around, and you're going to have to deal with that. Now, yes, He'll be merciful and help you move down the road. He'll lessen the consequences of what you did, but that doesn't mean that He's just not going to give it to you. He told you, you didn't listen. So now there's a consequence for not listening.
In that between people blaming things on destiny and
Yes.
Islam, how do you differentiate that?
Because,
Could you tell us what she said?
Yeah, what she said.
yes, she said in traditional Islam, people say everything's destiny, and so they blame it on destiny rather than on their own responsibility. I don't, you know, people who blame it on destiny, for me, are an illusion. You know, Allah, you know, it's kind of like, astaghfirullah, but people would say, oh, well, you know, I'm a Christian and I can live and do anything I want, and Jesus is he's gonna save me at the end of my life. I mean, it's the same kind of ridiculousness. Jesus will help, I'm sure, and Jesus may take people out of the fire eventually, I agree. But it doesn't mean that there isn't a responsibility for what they did. You are busy doing wrong things because you believe in Jesus doesn't mean that he's going to just wipe that all away. You can live your whole life doing whatever you want. It's ridiculous. You know, it's the same thing. The destiny, Allah gives destiny in the sense of He gives trials that are going to come to you. And He gives you the free choice to decide how you're going to deal with those trials. And based on your choices, there are outcomes of what happens, which then lead to more trials. You see what I'm saying? It's not that Allah destines everything and we do nothing. He says, I created this life as a trial. It's a trial for you. He puts, the Prophet said on the night of the ascent, when all your deeds go up to Allah, which I can't remember the date of the night, but it goes all up. And then on the night of the descent, when Allah sends the orders back, which is Laylatul Qadr, there's this time period where Allah weighs everything. And during that period of weighing, He says, what I see is you didn't have mercy, but you did have love. So I value the love that you brought, but I see that you're weak on mercy. Therefore, I'm going to set up a trial for you that will teach you mercy. What kind of trial might Allah teach you? He might say, well, I'm going to give you a situation where you're going to have to learn mercy. What kind of situation might Allah give you where you have to learn mercy?
Hurricane.
Hurricane. Exactly. Or somebody comes and tows your car, or somebody comes and backs into you and you end up in the hospital, or something like that. Now you can hate that person, or you can be merciful for that person. Right? That's a teaching of mercy. I was on a call this morning. I have a woman call me the first time today. She has a type of female cancer, stage 4. Really, really nice lady. And I asked her about, and she said to me, all my life, the only thing I wanted was to have a relationship with a man where I could have true intimacy and true love. And that's the only thing that God has withheld from me my whole life. And now she has stage 4 cancer from that part of her life. Very interesting. And if you look deep, what she did with it, which I think was fabulous, she said, my husband left me, I had him and he left me. And what I did is I worked so hard to forgive him and to find mercy for him. And now I love him and I have mercy for him. And I had to work many years, she said, to be able to get through that. You know, I thought that was really a very noble, that's such incredible nobility in her. So then she said, Ibrahim, but why do I have this cancer? And so we went inside the cancer, we started looking inside the cancer. And I'm still understanding all the dynamics of this, but we went inside the cancer, and what we found was she turned against herself. She said, it must be that I'm bad, that no man wants me. And she attacked herself, and that was the cancer. Okay. So we make decisions, or we make, these choices inside ourselves. Was it destiny that she's going to have cancer? No. The destiny is what Allah makes for her with men. But what she does with it is her own free choice. Yes.
Is mercy the same as forgiveness?
Very similar. People can forgive, but they may not be merciful. Merciful is higher.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, do I have a cup of coffee for me by chance? I'm sorry, I'm still on my West Coast time. This is my coffee time. 7 o'clock in the morning. So, or 8 o'clock in the morning. All right. So anyways, your job, my job, is to learn what Allah gives. Allah will give you trials to teach you something to come closer to Him. And those trials are not always easy. But He doesn't say to you, because I give you that trial, you can't complete it, which is what those people say. It's exactly the opposite. Allah gives you the trial so you can complete it. And the completion might be, in her case, we looked at this morning, I said, when we got through with the session, it was very clear for her, oh, I have been crying for someone to fill the gap of love in me that I have always missed, and I didn't turn to God to fill that love. And now I need to turn to God to fill the state of love, not to look for it from a man. That's what she realized. And in that, there was a lot of peace, and the healing began. How do you know the healing began? Because inside the place where the tumor was, this beautiful emerald light appeared. And she began to feel the tumor starting to melt a little bit. Okay? So by understanding this inner dynamic, by understanding it and turning it to God, and by allowing God's light to come down, the tumor began to melt away. And I'm hopeful that with that kind of sign that we'll actually be able to get rid of it. And we have done many stage 4s before and have had much success with it. But, you know, not always. It takes that type of thing, honesty, to go on. Okay, so let's go back to Tadbir. Tadbir means that you're letting go of self-management into godly management. Okay, you're going from Tadbir to Mudatabir. You're going from Tadbir into Mudatabir. Thank you. Okay.